If you woman cannot cook, then you are not a woman. No man will stay with you. You woman cannot keep a man in your pocket. If you woman shook loose your curvaceous figure, then your man is entitled to look at other options. Weigh those options. It is allowed. You woman brought it upon yourselves. You should have maintained your figure. If you woman dare speak back to your man, then you are a woman trying to be a man when there's already a man in the house. So, shh. No questions allowed. You do not wear the pants in that relationship. Know your place, woman. Know that you will always be an object. A person not entitled to property because objects cannot own. Cannot even own your last name, for it is given to you by your spouse. One of the achievements us women are to look forward to. Like our parents didn't give us names. Didn't give us titles that we can be referred to. Cannot even own your kids because they ain't your kids. Apparently, watoto ni wababa, so you just become the life giver. A womb that houses generations that cannot be traced back to you. Your name not worthy to be recognized on the family tree, so you become the roots, you do all the work, and then later realize that no one will ever praise a beauty of a tree by its roots. And just because dowry was given for me doesn't give you the right to mistake appreciation for purchase, because you do not own me. You will not reduce me to an object again, that be from downtown, that side chick you want to get your freak on, that classic vixen from your music video. So understand this, that this is a fight for respect. Clap your hands and dance round this altar of rage, brother. You're about to be burned. Understand that this is Wangari Maathai on heat. Understand that you stand in the street of democracy with the rage of Afghanistan. Understand that I come to you with the heart of a priest but with the fierceness of a gangster. Understand that the untamed spirit of Nelson Mandela, the vision of Martin Luther King, and the wisdom of Mahatma Gandhi just got birthed in my voice. And if you do not understand anything, understand that I don't need a man to tell me where or where not to be. I know exactly where my place is. Shiki.
Wow.
Need I say more? Need I say more, or should we just have this camera on Shiki and enjoy the rest of the hour, and just enjoy amazing pieces as such. Shiki, karibu sana to Art and Culture Monday.
Asante sana.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well. What about you?
I am fine. I am fantastic. How is your Monday morning?
My Monday morning is coming along well. I'm enjoying it.
Yes. Is it usually a hassle, Monday morning?
Not really, not really, but today is a good day. Today is an extra good day. Yeah.
Thank you. You're the perfect fit for Art and Culture Monday. Your Mondays need to be at 100, and I hope that we are making them that.
Definitely.
And karibu sana. Guys, this is Shiki. She is here on Art and Culture Monday. We're going to get to know her, hear a few more pieces from her heart that are just amazing. But before we do all that, Shiki, can you say hi to guys at home? Tuambie wewe ni nani, unafanya nini, before we get to know you even better.
My name is Shiki.
Yeah.
Hiyo ni jina ya usanii.
Yes.
But ID name is Shikanga Shiboko.
Yes.
I am a law student at the University of Nairobi.
Yeah.
And I'm also a spoken word and performing artist.
Yeah.
And currently I'm also a published poet.
Yes.
Yeah. So I released my book called How to Grieve a Heartbreak last Saturday. And it's been an interesting journey.
Amazing. Now I feel like I want to start on that book, but we need to get a little bit of more background before we get to the book. So when did you get into poetry?
So I started writing 2013, just after high school.
Yeah.
And when I started writing, I wasn't intending for it to be poetry.
Yeah.
I was going through a rough time and I started venting on paper. I just was writing it out.
Yeah.
So one time I wrote how I felt. When I was reading it through, it felt like poetry. So I sent it to two of my friends.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, this is this is really good. I
Yeah.
hope you pursue, doing it more,
Yeah.
One of them sent me spoken word videos.
Yes.
Zamaju. And I had never seen what was spoken word. I
Yeah.
had never seen
What is
spoken
that?
word. Was
people?
like, what is this? Blew my mind, and I
Yes.
was like, that is exactly what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because the structure of how I was writing my pieces was more of poetry as a high school, but then spoken word, is purely poetry for performance. So
Yes.
there's a structure it's going to have.
Yes.
I started writing, reading more, listening more to videos, watching more videos, and then started performing in church.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine, I think a year, 2 years later, introduced me to the poetry scene. Yeah.
So then you started. When did you officially get into the poetry scene?
That will be around late 2014 to 2015. 2014 was just me testing the waters, but 2015 was me
Yes.
saying.
So even say 2015. 2015, we are now at 2021, so that's about 6-7 years.
Yes.
How has it been? Of course, you have seen growth. I mean, you're a published poet right
Yes,
now.
yes.
So that is just the growth I can see. The peak I can see. But I know a lot more has happened. So how has it been over the last 6 years?
It definitely has its ups and downs.
Yeah,
It's been a
of
roller
course.
coaster.
Yeah.
Initially, when I was coming in the poetry scene, I wasn't coming in thinking I can do this long term. It was
Yeah.
a hobby. It was
Part-time thing, something I
I just
enjoy.
discovered this new talent and I want to share it with guys. I didn't even know spoken word or poetry could pay.
Yeah.
So the first time, I think there was this show yenye tulikuwa tunapatiwa 500 at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was so amused. I was like, where?
Took you away. Like, you mean?
It's like, we can get money from this. I was like, okay, sawa.
Yes.
So looking for more gigs.
Yes.
No, in the beginning of, I think any artistic career, you'll go through these open mic phases.
Yes.
Phases you're trying to put yourself out there, be more
Exactly.
visible,
Yes.
so that people can see you and hopefully call you for shows. So there was definitely that period of time.
Yeah.
And sometimes during that period, you're not earning money,
Yes.
which is expected. But I mean, now I feel like it's better for artists than
Yes.
then, especially
Than-
for spoken word artists.
Yes, so someone that is starting on now, especially if they're good at what they do, you feel they have started at a much better time than you guys.
Definitely, because then like no one knew what spoken word was. In
Yeah.
fact, I was joking with a friend how unaweza pata, let's say for example, I was holding a show
Yeah.
for spoken word 2 to 4 on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Another one had from like 6 to 8. Watu wangekuja show yangu 2 to 4, poets, other spoken word artists wanna
Yeah.
come to my show.
Yeah.
That's my audience,
Yes.
2 to 4.
Yeah.
And then wakitoka show yangu si wote tunaenda to the other person's show.
Yeah.
We were each other's audience
Yeah.
until we actually started growing and having people who are not in the scene starting to experience us, and I feel like that's when it opened up more.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
when other people
Other
ask the
people
audience
started
who are
up,
not
yes.
exactly writers or poets to just enjoy this beautiful art that is out there. So people started coming in, and how is now in terms of the poetic artistic scene?
Definitely there's more appreciation for the art.
Yes.
More people are taking it seriously. There are people who are currently living from it,
Yes.
which is good because it shows that it has potential.
Yes.
And I feel like we can grow more. Like I'm seeing spoken word in adverts now.
Yes.
Different organizations from companies to CSOs, NGOs are calling you for, if they have their own
Yeah.
event, they'll call you for performance. So there's definitely a better reception for spoken word right now.
Yes,
Yeah.
I definitely like that, because I feel like I passionately love spoken word, because I feel like it's the movie you get to, imagine. Shiki is just there with her words, and I can imagine the whole scene. Like, I'm so angry about that piece on women. I am definitely, I'm charged. So I feel like that needs some appreciation. I want us to do one more piece before we get to your book and even further conversation. Yes.
This next piece is actually in my book. It's called Guide on How to Grieve a Heartbreak.
Okay, guide. Listen, guys. Kenny.
When you find out that your significant other has left you, 1. Sit down before your legs start seeping in weakness from your broken heart. The high expectations you put on that man now lay burden on your shoulders. 2. Run. Run to your mother, to your grandmother, to your aunt. Run to the arms of the woman who has bled the same blood that you're bleeding now. Find haven in an already healed heart and remind yourself that the arms of the strong is refuge camp for the broken. 3. Delete his number, or at least archive it. The thought of you not being able to scroll through his contact should be a reminder of his chosen absence in your life, so savor in it. 4. Pull out the old pictures and videos and go down that painful memory of the lies that have been miscarried in the womb of your misfortune. Remind yourself that that is the man he truly is. 5. You will start scrolling through his Instagram, through his Facebook, and you will notice the name Michelle pop up a couple of times. Remind yourself that the rage and anger you are simmering in is to burn off the impurities he might have left in you, so burn. Burn that chaff away. 6, you might get drunk. You might drunk dial him late in the night in between your sheets. Girl, stop. You should have deleted his number in the first place. 7, it is 2 weeks after your breakup and you still won't have deleted his number. You will want to call and check up on him, but because of your pride, you will choose to call his brother, his cousins, his friends. Remind yourself that breakup sometimes involves the untangling of families too. 8, you will start stalking him again on social media. You will notice what you used to beg him to do for you, he willingly does for others now. You will get angry, pick up a stone, and head to his mother's house, because that's where he lives, in his mother's house. Remind yourself that the mother does not have to pay for the fool this child has grown into becoming. 9, insecurities and doubts about your ability to be woman and ready will cloud judgment. You will tear down self over and over at the expense of your brokenness. You will cower and rage at the sight of men. There will be an unpleasant smell in your nose radar. You will shift your center to the position of lonely, and you will start playing the rebound game. And after willingly laying yourself in empty shells of men's egos, you might find another person. And if he does what this other guy did, then let him go. At least this time. This time you have a guide on how to grieve a heartbreak.
Oof, oof, oof. At least this time you'll have a guide. You know exactly what to do. You won't struggle a lot. I feel I like that. That has just given us a very good, background of getting through the book on grieving, on how to actually grieve a heartbreak. 1, Shiki, is this personal?
The book?
Yes.
The book is definitely personal.
Okay, so we moved there. How many? Let's start with. When did you want it to become a book? Because I know it started as a piece.
Okay.
Yeah. So when did you think, I think this could actually be an entire anthology?
Okay, so this specific piece that I'm from doing,
yes,
I wrote way before I did the book.
Yeah.
And when in 2020, I don't know, I felt like I was going through a series of heartbreaks. It was different kinds.
Yes.
And I was like, okay, I have this piece, but haini saidi, because at that point the breakup I was experiencing was mina beshangu tulikuwa tumekosana. But this piece is not, it's for like a romantic partner.
Yes.
I was like, okay, so how do I grieve this loss?
Yes.
Because it's someone who I was very close to,
yeah,
but now we are not seeing eye to eye.
Yeah.
And it definitely was in a bad space.
Yes. So it's not just romantic relationships, it's friendships that die, some family bonds even, and of course romantic relationships. So this piece specifically was on a friendship kind of entanglement that ended. Have you also experienced a romantic break, like?
Yeah, I have. And it was among the series of heartbreaks that was happening around the same time. It was like zilikuwa zinafuatana.
That must have been hard.
It was terrible because you don't know what you're grieving. It's like, am I sad because of today? Or is it it was very confusing.
Yeah.
And because of that also my mental health just planked at the same time, because inafika point you're starting to ask, maybe you're the problem, maybe
I'm the common factor,
I'm the common factor in all of this. Yeah, and it was on funny enough, it wasn't just one friendship I lost at that time.
Yeah.
It was like 3 or 4, and then now a romantic relationship, and I'm like, way okay, Sawa. It has to be me.
Yes,
it definitely has to be me.
So how did you, I know the book is part of the process, but how did you get through, you know, all that from the emotional dive? How did you get through it all?
Listen, I'm still getting through it. And one of the things I realized about healing is you can't rush it. There are days which are good. There are days you'd wake up and feel like, hey, leo niko poa, niko sawa, hata nimesahau jomsi, like niko sawa. Kesho you're crying as if it happened yesterday, right? And that's part of the journey. And I feel like most of the people would be like, okay, I don't feel this pain, unaikanyangilia, unaingiza chini ya carpet, unaifunika, but eventually
it comes up again.
Yeah, it comes up again. Itaanza kunuka. You know, you'll start having to bear the effects 3 years, 4 years later. So instead of doing that, just go through that process slowly. Usijirush, because it's the same way as if you were to break your leg. Hakuna time utaamka useme okay sawa, mguu uko sawa, itabidi tuanze kutembea. You know, you have to go through that process of having a cast, going for checkups, nini until your leg is back to where it was. So don't rush the process, guys. Watching, do not rush the process of healing, whether it is from a broken heart, romantically, friendship wise, family. Don't rush it. It may take a while. You know, like we have had the guide speaks of, you know, you're supposed to delete his number, but 2-3 weeks down the line you still have his number, or you save it because it's in your head anyway. So don't rush the process. How long did it take to put together this anthology? Started last year around October kisha, November kianza, and I released it on October 30th this year. Yes. Amazing. So how each individual, I know individually the pieces took a different time. Like, were they actually planned for, or they came as you went? No. So as I was going through that grieving journey, I was writing the pieces as is. So for example, like if I was going through a period, like there's a time my mental health was terrible, and that was when I was speaking to myself through the poetry. It was whenever I felt down, I was like, so like the pieces where I'm like telling myself, you're feeling the pain, stay there. Mtu asikujaribu kukuambia ati don't feel pain, don't cry. No, stay there, cry. That is how you're feeling today. It is valid. The times I'm like, okay, now you feel better, it feels, you know, but and that's like just I can rule the world, right? Let's just write part about of the roller coaster. Now you feel happy, enjoy this moment, because you never know when it's going to creep in again and come back and hit you when you least expect it, because that's how it feels like. Exactly. It's like a whole back and forth that's not very comfortable to keep going to. Never ending. Exactly. One, I'm going to ask about a copy of that book, but let's hold it there and go to Paza Sauti kidogo. You have also had pieces published in Paza Sauti. How did you get in touch? Like, how did you get to know them, then to know you before you even got your pieces published? So this journey of being a published poet ilianza last year, and I just realized that I wanted to expand. I like performing on stage. That's where my buzz is. But I was like, you know, expand your territory, and I started looking for call outs for people who are looking for poets who, you know, want to be published in their blogs, journals, vitu kama hizo. And Paza Sauti had a call out around the same time that I was looking forward to being published. Submitted my pieces. Funny enough, because I was really in a frenzy of wanting to be published, I submitted to over 20. 20. One came back, and that was Paza Sauti. And I think even part of the reason why I was so motivated to be self-published was because I was like, I'm not going to wait for other people to tell me that I'm worthy enough to appear in their publication. So I'm going to do it for myself. But Paza Sauti was actually the first place where I got published as a poet. Yes. Amazing. So if you're a writer out there and you are at home, look for these people. You know, get your pieces out there. You don't really know how good they are until uzieko huko nje. That's the only way to know. I want us, because of time, I want us to jump to an experience you had in Uganda, and just tell me how that journey and experience was, and how did it contribute to your writing? Definitely. So the first time I went to Uganda was on a artist exchange program with an organization that's called In Place of War, and there were having a collaboration with a Kenyan organization called Mau Mau Arts Collective. They mostly do film, but they also have what was spoken word and vitu kama hizo. So I was going there as a representative of Mau Mau Arts Collective, and what they were doing, this organization in place of war, was going to communities that had been affected by war and empowering young people through art. So for example, set up a studio, a whole studio, the equipments, donate, train them on how to use those equipments. Then we'll do our collaborative pieces together just to start them off. And then the album that we had created, they were going to sell it, because originally this organization comes from the UK, so they were going to try and shop it around, make money from it, and some of the proceeds will go back to the artist. We had visited 4 communities, Jinja, Kampala, Kitgum, I can't remember the last one, but and it was a 2-week experience. It was amazing because I was interacting with artists from Germany, artists from Japan, artists from UK, artists from Africa, Congo. It was really beautiful.
So you'd encourage artists to network, in short.
Definitely,
find
because
their network.
those are the people who are going to link you up to the next gig and the next, big project that is going to happen.
Amazing. Moving away kidogo from emotional pieces, you are working with Sauti ya Tetezi on political pieces. Do you write political pieces?
I do have a couple of social justice pieces. I feel like there's some things you see on the ground that I feel like we just can't sit and keep quiet, because being silent is also being part of the the ills that are happening. And for me, it's some of the things I've seen on the ground. I live in Kibra, number 9. So the things that happen that you're like,
can't afford to just
you just can't afford. You don't have that luxury, because the next minute it's going to be you.
Exactly.
So
now I know we haven't discussed this, but do you have one social justice piece?
Yes, I actually have a piece on extrajudicial killings. Especially with the 4 young guys who are killed at Kitengela, if I'm not wrong. Being mistaken identity, mob justice, police killing without following the right procedures, because everyone has a right to life according to constitution, but they take that into their own hands. Can we hear that
piece kidogo?
Yes,
because
sure.
we are getting into a political mode anyway, so we'd rather hear them and know how to keep away here. Just kidogo too.
Okay. He was 9 years old. A young boy that looked up to his big brother and was always at his tail everywhere he went. His older brother was the only male role model he had, and having no father around, you can imagine how he felt. He was 9 years old when he first saw drugs and money exchange hands. And with it came the life of women and cars, parties and drugs, hustle and guns. He was 9 years old when the cops put a target on his brother's gang. Big brother wasn't in it for the long run. He had a plan. Make enough cash to get his family out of the slums. Make cash, sell dope. Big cash, repeat mode. Cycles, manning territory, and he still had to do this with this 9-year-old at his back. Designated babysitter. He didn't mind because he loved his brother, but he paid it better. Cops bust the hideout. Everyone scatters left and right, bullets flying mighty high, and with 6 bullets to his chest and 3 at his back, he died. That day, a mother lost 2 of his sons. 1 to the grave and 1 to the law. But dang, he was just 9 years old. This life is not your own, and you're not in control. When you come from the places that I come from, this life is not your own. He was 19. Big dreams, but a little chance to get out of his miseries. He walked his talk. He fought his wars. He was tired of seeing his mother cry every time she lost a job. He didn't want to enter no gangs, do no drugs. He wanted out the right way, no strings attached. So he decided to get a job. Anything that could help his situation. I should let you know that he had dreadlocks. Let's call it intuition. He wanted, after the struggle was over, he would become an artist, dancehall to be specific, so the learning and the struggling begins. The hustling and the grinding persists, but he still puts his chin up because that's how kings are built. One fateful night at 9 p.m., a woman was robbed at gunpoint 5 minutes away from where this 19-year-old boy was. And the only thing this woman could remember about the person who robbed her was that he had dreadlocks. And so as this thief chased and this mob raced, guess who the mob caught instead? His life ended in between 2 tires and a liter of gasoline burning up in flames, pleading up to a crowd that wanted justice with rage, but dang. The only mistake this 19-year-old boy had was having dreadlocks. This life is not your own, and you're not in control. When you come from the places that I come from, this life is not your own.
Amazing. Amazing pieces right there. You are an amazing writer. I'm just saying that because you are here today, but you are it. You are what we are looking for in the spoken word industry and everything. And I like the fact that you can move from, okay, there's nothing that is not emotional, but you can move from heartbreak to social justice and just do it just as great. I love that. What are you working on currently before we sell your book?
I'm working on formally or officially recording the pieces that I have, because most of the pieces that I have are not on YouTube. They can't be found on these platforms like Spotify, Apple Music. So that's what I'm working on, so that next year I can now do the rollout. Yes. Roll
them out one by one, and I'm sure you have a whole bag of them. I like them. And when you do start rolling them out, make sure you start right here
Definitely.
on Art and Culture Monday. Now, your book, where can people find it?
So far, you'd have to reach me to find it.
Yes.
You can get in touch with me through any socials. On Instagram, I'm called Shiki. That's SHIKKIEY. On Twitter, it's the same. And on Facebook, it's Faith Shiki.
Faith Shiki.
Faith Shiki.
Yes, but look for Shiki anywhere, guys. Her name will pop up. I tried, it did. All right, her name will pop up, and we are looking for How to Grieve a Heartbreak. It's an amazing book. I'm hoping the last piece will, is it from the book? The last piece, is it from the book? Ama iko nje. Either way, it's Shiki's, so it's gonna be amazing. I want to bring you into our conversation of the day today. We are talking matters traditional attires, and I'm interested because you're in a very nice modern attire. One, you're looking super smart.
Thank you.
You are looking amazing. But what is your community's traditional attire?
You know?
Yeah.
So my dad is lawyer.
Yes.
And the way we used to do those music festivals in high school, we just used to wear like that, and then side-sole skirts. Yes, and I don't know if that's because so many, like, that's what they used to do for so many tribes. I don't know if that was what was really ours.
Yes.
I really don't know.
Yeah. But we will get to see. We'll dig into the Luhya community and see exactly what is their traditional dressing code. But you are in an urban, and what we would maybe call traditional urban attire, and it's looking amazing. Whoever designs you, whoever is your fashion guy, is doing a great job. He's doing an amazing job. Future plans, and big up anyone, then perform your final piece.
I want to big up first of all my family for supporting me. If it wasn't for them allowing me to be the artist that I am, I wouldn't be here. I want to big up just the different people who came through for the launch, because that was a whole task, but different people showed up in different ways. I'm not going to mention them. You guys know yourselves. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And also want to big up myself for betting on myself, because this was a whole journey. Publishing is not easy, and I'm really excited about this. Yes.
Amazing. Finally, future plans as you give me a book, because you have to drop one book for us in Culture Monday and myself. So what are we have said recording. You're going to record pieces and drop them. So I'm expecting to see your face many times over next year Art and Culture Monday. So we do wish you all the best, Shiki. You are doing amazing. You're here. I can't even, the future is too bright. I need my glasses to see where you're going. But either way, all the best for the remaining part of 2021, 2022, and the many years to come that you are going to actually be around giving us just such amazing pieces. Thank you so much for gracing our studio. It's been such an honor. Guys, it's a wrap for our lounge number 3.
Thank you so much.
Yes, a last performance from Shiki.
Definitely. I just wanted to say that the book goes for 1,000 shillings.
Yes, 1,000.
Yes,
Guys,
1,000
1,000 Kenya shillings only for a guide on all types of heartbreaks. This is affordable. This is so affordable. 1,000 shillings. Get Shiki anywhere. If you can't get Shiki, look for me. I will get to Shiki. Okay? I will get to Shiki and get you that book.
Next, please.
Aya.
Isabel Shikanga. A woman holding a broken home, gathering pieces of a dismantled father figure, prayers in silence, trying to be the man who ran and never stopped running. Michelle Obama, Graça Machel, Margaret Kenyatta, Ida Odinga, women keeping the world sane for when women and girls rise, their communities and their countries rise with them. Margaret Thatcher, Martha Karua, Hillary Clinton. Women's rights are human rights, and human rights are women's rights, one and for all. Orerogo Manduli. We cannot claim that the financial liberation of women is what has killed our men's masculinity. Nina Simone, Yvonne Chaka Chaka, Wangari Maathai. African women need to know that it's okay for them to be the way they are, to see the way they are as a source of strength, and to be liberated from fear and from silence. Malala Yousafzai, we cannot succeed when half of us are held back. Nina Simone, this is the world you have made and now you have to lie in it. Maya Angelou, I am a woman phenomenally. Phenomenal woman, that's me. Ijeoma Olua, for we are the women who work 2 jobs and companies won't hire our men. We are the women who march in the streets where no one else will. We are the women who clean the mess of our men and boys from the streets and scrape ourselves from the hands of unfaithful men and abusive men. We are those women.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.